Alright, class, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about prepositions, and this is another important part of speech. And there are lots of people who make errors with respect to prepositions, right? So sometimes people don't use the right preposition, sometimes they use a preposition where there's supposed to be no preposition, or they could miss out on a preposition that needs to be in a particular sentence, right? So we'll look at all those details in today's lecture, and but the first thing that I want to talk about is just the understanding of what prepositions are. Okay, so we've got three sentences here and also what they do, what they are, and what they do. Okay, so we've got three sentences here. So we work in the lab, right? So we work in the lab. The preposition here is in, right? So these are the words in, on, at, of. So words like these, since, for, these are called prepositions. We'll understand what they are and how we can define them. The subjects in the study again, or maybe we can change this to the subjects of the study just to have a different preposition. Okay, and then the panel was satisfied with the results, right? So we've got these three prepositions over here, and we need to understand what they do, right? So the key is to understand what comes before it and what comes after it. Okay, so let's look at what comes after, because there's something common here, and that kind of helps us define what prepositions are, right? So if you look at the lab, the study, the results, so what's common here is that there is always a noun after the preposition. Okay, now this is very important because the reason they're called prepositions, if you look at it, if you break this down, you'll see that it's spelled as preposition. Okay, pre means before, and position is the position that they're at, right? So what are they before? They're always before a noun. Okay, so a preposition is called a preposition only because it's always before a noun. Now in Hindi and in a lot of other languages, we may not have prepositions, because in Hindi we have something called postpositions. Okay, for example, I say table ke upar. I don't say ke upar table, right? I say on the table in English, so it's pre-positioned before the table. But in Hindi we say table ke upar. So the this part of speech actually comes after the noun. So we call them postpositions in Hindi, right? But the meaning is kind of similar. Although the sentence structure is different, the meaning is similar. So the first thing you need to understand is that a preposition will always be before a noun. If there's no noun following it, usually it's another part of speech, probably an adverb, or could be something else. Okay, so that's one. Now we need to look at what comes before it. Okay, now here we work. Here, work is a verb. Okay, so now here the preposition is connecting a verb with a noun. All right. Over here, the subjects of the study. So this is another noun, right? So here we've got a noun being connected to a noun, and here the panel was satisfied. Satisfied, adjective. They were happy, they were pleased, they were satisfied with the results. Okay, so that is usually what a preposition does. It connects a noun, which always has to follow it, with something before it, and that thing that comes before it can either be a verb or a noun or an adjective, right? And when I say noun, it can always be either a noun or a pronoun. Okay, so there would be cases where if I say, instead of the subjects of the study, I can say, or maybe not here, the results, right? So instead of the results, I can just say the panel was satisfied with it or them. So prepositions can be followed by pronouns as well, right? Nouns. A pronoun essentially stands in place of a noun. It functions as a noun. So it's the same thing, right? So this is essentially what prepositions do, right? So they connect two parts of speech. One of them has to be a noun. The one that follows the preposition always has to be a noun. The one that comes before the preposition can be a verb or a noun or an adjective. And so what does the preposition do? The preposition connects these two, and then it establishes a relationship between the two. So we work in the lab. So with respect to the lab, so this is the lab, and we are inside the lab. So it gives us a position, right? The subjects of the study. So the subjects belong to the study, right? The panel was satisfied with the results, right? So the satisfaction was with respect to the results, right? So it establishes a connection between a noun which follows it and whatever comes before it, and it establishes a relationship. Now, a lot of people could get confused between prepositions and conjunctions. Now, the biggest difference between coordinating conjunctions mainly and prepositions is that coordinating conjunctions will always connect only the same part of speech. If you say Ram and Sham, or we are happy and excited. So happy and excited are both adjectives. Ram and Sham are both nouns. You wouldn't say Ram and excited. That doesn't make sense, right? So, so that's one of the big differences. Conjunctions usually connect similar parts of speech. Prepositions would connect different parts of speech, and prepositions have to be followed by a noun all the time. So let's now look at a few things that prepositions can do. A few types of meaning that they can generate. The first one is the position. First one is position. They can tell us the position of a particular thing, that something is on the table, right? It's in the petri dish. So it tells you the position. Towards the mall. So that's here. It's giving you a direction. In which direction, right? So here there's position. Here there's direction. It could also tell us about time at 7 p.m. It could also tell us about a cause. It was caused by a virus. And it can also give you an agency. How? With what? Right? Measured with a thermometer. Right? So prepositions are more than 100. Right? In English, there are many prepositions, and some of them come not just as a single word, but in phrases. Right? So it's obviously very difficult to learn all prepositions, and there's nothing to be learned in prepositions. The whole thing is to get an idea of how they're used. So for any usage in English, the best way to learn English grammar is to read, right? So when you're reading literature written by other people, when you're reading research papers written by other people, especially peer-reviewed journals, because there the language is going to be good, the content is going to be good, you need to focus on these words. How are they used? With what words are they used? What is the meaning that's derived, right? And that's the best way to understand the usage. But again, we are not going to look at all the prepositions today because it's impossible, and you won't even be able to remember all of them if we cover them in one lecture. So, in general, for prepositions, just read more. The more you read, focus on these prepositions, see how they are used, and you will gradually get the hang of it. Okay. I'll also give you some other tips with respect to tools that you can use to understand prepositions better. But for now, we'll look at a few prepositions. In particular, one set that a lot of people get confused with, and then we'll look at some prepositions that are typically used in academic English, in research writing. So that's what we're going to do in today's session. Now, the most commonly confused group of prepositions are in, on, and at. Okay. Now, these can be used both as prepositions of place and as prepositions of time. Okay. Now let's look at them as prepositions of time first. Okay. It's pretty simple. Now, where do we use on, where do we use in, and where do we use at? So the general consensus is that you use on with days and dates. Okay. Friday, on the 26th of March, on Easter Sunday, on Good Friday, on Ram Navami, on Muharram, on Independence Day, on Republic Day. Any day, any date that you use would use on. Any day or date. On Wednesday. Okay. In, on the other hand, is used for any extended period of time. Any extended period of time. So, if it's a long duration of time, if there's a duration, right, you use in. Now, what can this be? What can duration be? It could be anything like 4 minutes, right? In 4 minutes. It could be hours, in 4 hours, right? So I'm just going to erase this, put it here. In 4 hours, in 4 days, in 4 months, in 4 weeks, years, decades, centuries, millennia, eons. I mean, it goes on. Any extended period of time, even seconds, in 4 seconds. As long as it's a duration, right? You can use in. Okay. Now, where do we use at then? Where do we use at? We use at for a particular point of time, right? What is a particular point of time? Maybe 4 p.m. At 4 p.m. Right? At noon, at dawn, at dusk, sunrise, midnight, midday. Yeah, so any particular point of time, it could be 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 5:35 p.m. So any specific point of time, it's only one point of time. Then you can use at. All right. Other things that in can be used for, again, in are seasons, in summer, in winter, right? Festivals. Okay, let's leave out festivals for now. So seasons: summer, winter, autumn, spring, monsoon. You can use them there. One thing that you should not use in with is weekends. Okay, weekends. You don't say in the weekend. You can't say in the weekend. It's either at the weekend or on the weekend. They're both right. So on the weekend we like to do our homework, or at the weekend we like to do our homework. Now again with festive seasons, okay, with festive. So these are actual seasons like summer, spring, etc. But when we talk about festive seasons, like Diwali, it's a festive season, or New Year is a festive season, right? In such cases, you would not use in. Yeah, you would use at Diwali, okay, at New Year. But if you want to say on that day, okay, not the general season of celebration in Diwali, but on the day of Diwali, then you can use on. So I'm just going to put it here. So it'll be like, at Diwali we like to celebrate, but on Diwali it means on the day, on that day, on the specific day on which Diwali is celebrated. Okay, at Diwali is the general festive season, but on Diwali is when that particular, on that day when the diyas are lit and the crackers are fired, and that particular day is what we're talking about. So this is in general your blueprint of using in, on, and at. Okay, so just a quick revision: on is used with days and dates, any day, any date, 3rd of April, 4th of April, whatever. Yeah, any extended period of time, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 days, 5 weeks, 2 centuries. Yeah, use in. On at, on the other hand, is used for specific points of time: 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., noon, midnight. So if it's one point, it only happens once, then at. Okay, so that is how it is. These prepositions are used as prepositions of time. Now we'll look at how they are used as prepositions of place. Alright, so let's now look at how they are used as prepositions of place. Okay, now on is probably the simplest to understand. Maybe in is also easy. At is usually the most confusing, but that's also simple. Once you understand the logic, it becomes fairly simple to understand. Okay, so the first one is on. On basically means on the surface. So that it can be, so this is the surface of the box, like the top surface of the box, and it has to be touching the surface, right? So if I say instead of this on, I draw a cat, right? So this is my cat, and it is on the box. It's on the surface of the box and it's sitting there, right? So that's my on cat, right? Then I've got another cat called the in cat. So this cat is sitting there, right? Inside. It's inside over here. So that's the back wall, and it's inside. Okay, so it's in. This is the in cat, right? And there's another cat which is here. Now this I call the at cat. Okay. Now let's first understand on. Right. On basically means on the surface. So it doesn't have to be a horizontal surface. It can also be a vertical surface. Right. So for example, what am I doing now? I'm scribbling on the board because it's on the surface. So the surface can either be flat like this or it can be vertical. But as long as it's touching the surface, you can say on. Right. That's on. Whereas in means that it's enclosed, it's surrounded by some kind of, it could be a three-dimensional structure like this, or it could also be a boundary, right? So let's say this is a football field. So you can say in the field, okay? Why is it in the field? Because it's surrounded by a boundary. But if it's a big field and it's got, you can't see where the boundary ends, then you can also possibly say on the field, right? He's on the field. So sometimes, a lot of times, prepositions in and on can be used interchangeably, and you need to understand why someone is saying a particular thing. Because if you say in, it means that they're referring to someone being within the boundary of a particular thing. But if you're saying on, it means that you're just talking about the fact that irrespective of the boundary, the person is still on the surface of that field. So if you want to refer to the fact that he's on the ground, on the surface, then you say on. But if you want to say that he's within the boundary, and that's the meaning you want to convey, that he's inside the boundary, then you say he was in the field, right? So let's assume that you're playing cricket. The players are on the field. That's fine. They're on the field. They're standing on the field, right? But let's say someone catches the ball, right? It depends whether the person was in the field or outside the field when he caught the ball. Because if he's outside the field, then that's a 6, right? But he was in the field, then the batsman's out, right? So over here, it doesn't matter if he's on, because even if he's outside of the ropes, he's still on the ground, right? So depending on what meaning you want to convey, you can change the preposition. So it can either be on or in. So prepositions can be tricky. Again, the best way to understand it is to read literature and see how they're being used and be observant, and then get your writing proofread by someone, and gradually you'll learn. But this is the logic. If you want to say that something is on the surface and that's what's important, then you say on. If you want to say something is within a boundary, then you say in, right? At, on the other hand, basically means close to or nearby. It can mean that. It can also mean inside sometimes. But basically, what at refers to, people use at as a point of reference. That's the main thing. Okay, this cat is at this box, which means that it's close to this box. If you're far away from the box, then someone can direct you saying, hey, I'm at the box, which means I'm close to the box somewhere. I could be inside, I could be outside, it doesn't matter. For example, let's say I'm shopping at a mall, right? And you ask me, where are you? I'm at home. Where are you? I say, I'm at the mall. I'm at Select City Walk, for example. So which means that I could be inside. So this is Select City Walk. I could be inside Select City Walk, right? I could be outside. Unlikely that I'll be on the roof of Select City Walk, but I could be anywhere inside Select City Walk. I could be outside Select City Walk, maybe at the parking lot, maybe just on the road outside. But see, for you, it's a reference point because you are far away. You're far away somewhere. And for you, you know that, hey, I need to get to Select City Walk. Once you've reached Select City Walk, you ask me, where are you? I say, hey, I'm at the McDonald's. So again, you come here and you say, okay, I gotta go to McDonald's. And you come to McDonald's and you ask me, hey, where are you? So I could be either outside McDonald's, I could be inside McDonald's. And I say, I'm at the gate of McDonald's. So, which means I could either be outside the gate or inside the gate. But if you come to the gate, you'll see me. Or I'm at the counter. So if you come to the counter, you'll see me somewhere around there. So at is usually used for giving directions. Okay, it's a point of reference. And in is used to denote that something is within a boundary area, and on is used to denote that something is on the surface. Okay, so I'm going to end this video here because this in, on, and at sometimes are the biggest confusion for a lot of people. Okay, so we've understood what prepositions are, we've understood what they do, we've now understood the difference between in, on, and at as prepositions of place and prepositions